Get it. Just tiny squeaks today. She's almost busted that ball. Good morning, everybody. This is Anne. There we go. Welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, and disembodied voice Justin, who I'm getting ready to put in my ear here. How's it going? How's it going? There was, yeah, Saltora, there was a cure emergency. Plus, for extra fun points, guys, try having your dog with an incontinent butt when you put your back out the day before Thanksgiving. Yeah, that was me. So my back's still dicey, and every time I have to clean up after Kiri gets, it starts like saying, hey. So yeah, it's been that kind of a holiday weekend. Otherwise, the food was tasty. I definitely need to make more cookies, though. I did not make nearly enough cookies for this. Hello, everybody. So yeah. Nice. Nice, Twisted Oma. 122 pennies. That's a lot. That's as much as Bones 1 Kickstarter. All right, what do we got? Hey, critically corrupted. So does that mean that you rolled a 1 and got corrupted? Or does that mean you rolled a 20 and you intended to get corrupted? I'll just call you Crit for short. How about that? Hello, I'm Anne. I haven't seen you before, unless you're a new name on an old face. All right, dog is settled, although sitting very weirdly on her pillow. What are you doing, dog? I just give up. Kiri's broken. I'm broken. The world is broken. And we're just going to paint a fire giant. There are never enough cookies for this month, Jetta. This month has been heinous between the week and a half of is Kiri going to die stress and and me putting my back out. And it's just been an ugly month. So we'll see how I definitely can't do a real long stream today. Like I did that 2-hour on Friday was it Wednesday we did that? I think that also was key in I know my back was so unhappy after that. So we're going to be real careful today on the kneeling chair and see if I can keep myself copacetic. Where is my blue liner? Here it is. We're going to do speed painting. Yeah, I don't even count, like I don't want to blame it all on Monday. I just think it's a bad month, Korniko. I'm just going to call this November. I am on track to finish my NaNoWriMo goal. But yeah, it's been rough. All right, I'm going to get my wet palette in frame. This, of course, is Skorg Fire Giant. Huge! Yeah, I looked at Pazzel's, like, they sound like the kind of, like, the flavoring. I was looking for an anise-flavored cookie. And, but I don't really want to mess around with a press and all that stuff. Like, I've kind of resolved to get my kitchen implements, like, to a manageable level. David and I don't have much storage here. So I don't really have room for a unitasker like a Pazzel maker. So I was thinking I would just figure out how to add some anise flavor, maybe to my Danish butter cookies, and do that, and see how that goes over with those. Do some experimenting. I did some lemon cookies. And those were tasty. Although David says I need to make them glutinous, but that's just because he's biased. All right, we're going to get some blue liner going on here. November, yeah. Oh, snow, good. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't made pfeffernusse ever. And that's surprising because I do like them. Let's get some blue liner, some white, and some black. How about that? And we're gonna do some speed iron. I decided I wanted to get his greaves all figured out. Like I just want to get the legs like a lot done. So we're gonna do some speed iron. Hello, Fungi Master. Mostly I just want cookies. I need to make my Russian tea cakes, and I need to make there's these pecan shorties that are dipped in chocolate that I made that were in the Great British Baking Show baking book that I really liked. So I need to make those. Maybe I'll make my mom's cookie cutter cookies, which are like an awesome cookie cutter cookie, but very hard to work with because it's a very sticky dough. They're the best cookie cutter cookie I've ever had, but they are very, very difficult to make because they've got sour cream in the dough and it makes it really sticky. So you have to use a lot of flour. but they give a really nice texture and a great flavor. So it's like, Alrighty, gonna put this off to the side. Gonna get the wet palette in frame. Wet palette. I'm crooked. My wet palette is crooked. We're gonna take off Skorg's sword, because even though it is snazzy, it is in the way. Because we're gonna be working on the lower part of the giant today. Yeah, I do Danish butter cookies every year, all the time, Saltora. Like, I live on those suckers. They're so nice and easy. Like, I use the cookie press to make shapes. Although I actually use, like, I think it's supposed to be just the stripe shape or the leaf shape. But I think if you put it straight up and down, it's like a trilobite. And I like trilobites. They're my favorite fossil. My favorite prehistoric creature. So, yeah. Snickerdoodles, because it's fun to say. Yay! All cookies are welcome here. Hey, Carly Hamster, how's it going? And of course, I've got water. I managed to use because I'm not accustomed to a wet palette, I managed to spill water on everything this morning, in addition to all the rest of the angst. So, yeah, Snickerdoodle's like a cinnamon cookie. It's a very soft cinnamon cookie, Jetta. It's very tasty, though. Alrighty, so let's see. What are we gonna make iron? And what mold lines must I remove to not hate this? I need to remove this mold line. We're just kind of like going one mold line at a time today. That's the way today is gonna be. All right, yeah, this is when Bones Black gets annoying when you're trying to remove a mold line and it gets those little threads and you're like, arg, how do I get you off, threads? You are annoying, and then you have to figure out exactly where they connect so that you can get them off. That is the annoying. I feel like I'm spoiled lately because I've been working with a lot of resin. And it's so much easier. There we go. It's a little better. Mostly I just didn't want that big fat mold line staring at me. So now I need to figure out if I have gotten all of everything off of there. And if a file will help or make it worse. This is normally where I'd reach for a file. So I'm going to reach for one, see if I regret it. Just to get some of these little nubbies off. It should work. Yeah, it does. So I generally believe that files don't work for bones, but when you've got these little grits and bits and nubbins, you can sometimes just get them off with a file. Even though in general, files are not very useful on bones, even Bones Black. Sourdough cinnamon twist. Oh, 2-day process, big one, yeah. Right now, I just want quick cookies. Like, I need a quick fix. I'm cookieless during the holidays, and this is not acceptable. Not with the amount of stress that we've all been under. It's not acceptable. I'm afraid I am a stress eater. But that's why I like my Danish butter cookies, because when I make them with my my alcohol sugars, and my almond flour, they're like low carb and only like 10 calories each. So I could eat 3 of them and still feel like I'm being a good girl. All right, there we go. Got that mold line. Let's look and see. This one looks pretty invisible. I think we're good. All right, so we're using a wet palette today because I want to go fast and not worry about stuff. I'm probably going to paint over areas that I also think I'm just going to scooch my paint closer to the edge, because if I put too much of my yellow wet palette in there, it really shifts my color. There we go. All right, so I want to go fast. I'm probably going to cover over areas that are going to be gold later, just because I want to go fast, and I'll figure out my gold afterwards. So let's go quick and in and get in focus. But being good makes me joyful, Rathmore, because then I get to like maintain my nice weight that I worked so hard to lose, instead of eating a cookie and feeling terrible because I'm undermining my weight loss. You don't lose, you don't fight your way down, 60 pounds just to lose it because you're like, I just want to feel good. No. I'm past that. I still stress eat, but I try to stress eat in a very intelligent manner. All right, so blue liner, straight up, lots of it. Over everything, because we're speed painting. We're not bothering about details. Details, schmetails. We'll come back and do those in gold later. And thick paint so that it actually sticks, of course. Although, since I washed them, that's not as important. But I have been handling the lower parts of this giant a lot, so he may have accumulated some finger oils. The blue liner is the color for all of his metal. Well, I mean, most people will probably say my Danish butter cookies are not good for you. After all, almond flour is pretty high fat. So if you are on a lower fat diet, my diet looks like poison to you, but it works for me, and that's the important part. All right, so now we've got this nice wet layer. We're gonna, and of course my wet palette is tremendously wet. So this is why I hate wet palettes, guys. So let's just illustrate this. My white is already falling to pieces. Like, it's already thinned. Like, I put it full strength on here, and everything is, well, water's beating, for one thing. But everything is already getting angry at me and saying that, you know, I have too much water on everything. So this is why wet palettes annoy me. And I see no reason to, like, learn to work with them better if I can just use a well palette and be perfectly happy. It's just for the record. So I want a highlight on this upper edge. I'm probably also going to get a highlight in here. Just going to kind of block in some lighter areas, see how I'm doing that. I'm not trying to make it full strength or anything. If I want a sharp white highlight, it's going to have to wait till after I wet blend. But we need some contrast here where this plate comes down. So there's going to be a shadow right under our upper highlight. I'm going to kind of blend that in, blend the highlight in, I mean. So the key here is not in getting blends on. It is to set up like where your highlights and shadows are so that it makes it look good. Let me see here. But yes, by all means, like, say what your favorite holiday cookies are. I used to really like the ones where the mom used the chow mein noodles and mixed them with chocolate. Those were really good, but they're totally not good for me. And there's no good for me version, so I don't think they make gluten-free chow mein noodles. If they do, they're probably not as good and crunchy. So we did eat apple pie. I was glutinous, and now I'm back on the wagon, essentially. I was glutinous over the holiday. Silly wet palette. You are just terrible. How does David work with you all the time? Although David has a newer, spiffier version of the wet palette, so that's probably why. Rosettes. I don't know what rosettes are. Describe them, Saltar. What flavor or what shape? What are they? Yeah, spritz. That's Danish butter cookies to me, Rathmore. I love those. I make a ton. Rax, I put my back out, so I'm still a little dicey, but other than that, you know, it's just been a November, right? David and I played a lot of WoW because I could do that by propping my back up. I think I've created a monster. I think David has, like, been eaten by WoW temporarily. Usually, this happens, though. Like, when he gets into a computer game, he gets into it, like, big time. Whereas I tend to, like, take things.
And how are you enjoying the expansion?
I love it. Actually, the story's fantastic, and I really like the zones.
That's exactly my feedback, too. I feel like this is the best way they've ever told a story.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Ever. Expansion.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really, the story's really good, and, yeah, it's really sleek. It's really sleek. It involves you. Like, even the intro, like, usually you're just, like, kind of traipsing through the intro going, yeah, here we are again. But this time you actually feel like you've abandoned your friends, and it's like, which is exactly what David does say. He's not usually into story, and he's like, I feel like we just abandoned our friends. So
yeah, it's crazy. And you know, I think it flashes back later. I don't remember.
Yeah. Yeah,
where, like,
it's well
they're
done.
just.
Yeah, it's cool. And there's a sense of urgency, and there's a sense of, oh my god, these people. And there's, you know, it's just well done. It's just very, very well done. And you like the zones. Like, even the ugly zones have cool NPCs that you really like in the end, right? So, like the orc lady, like, I hated the kind of undeady zone, the ugly plague landsy one. But the NPC there, the orc lady, the assassin spy, she was so cool that I was like, I like this zone after all. So, yeah, it's really well done. I'm enjoying it tremendously. Like, Yeah, exactly. And that's great, muses, right? We're screwed and in big trouble, and that's what motivates us. So I'm really interested now to see like what the raids are like. Like what's the story? What stories are we solving in like the raids? You know, like are we getting get to rescue each of our old friends in a raid? Like, you know, I'm really interested to see what's going on. I'm not to the end of the story yet though, so I'm not sure if we rescue them by the end or not. So I'm only level 56, I think. David has been playing on his alt, like, because I actually have still been working on other stuff, you know, with Nano going on and everything. I haven't been totally immersed in World of Warcraft. So I'm gonna just block in some blue liner here, guys. Just some essentially mixing white with it to bring up the areas that I want to be blue liner, and to kind of figure out like where my reflections are and where I want to. I know those highlights aren't going to stay that bright, but I want to mark them out right now to just to judge where they are. But yeah, I mean, even if you've never played a World of Warcraft expansion, I think this is a good one. It is it's just really like that. It's really enjoyable to play through. Like I'm not even noticing the leveling. Like I just kind of level and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I'm already 54 or I'm already 56." Cuz the story is so good, you don't even mind. And the quest hubs are small, and so it's nice bite-sized pieces, and so you progress fast, and they move the story along at a good clip. And yeah, I mean, as far as MMOs go, I think Blizzard has learned a lot over the years, and this one, considering that there were some people who felt they really kind of screwed up a little bit on the parts of the last one, I think that they really, really did a good job this time. So yeah, I've only run one dungeon, and I was like seat of my pants because I'm a healer, and so never haven't run a dungeon for years, literally years. So I was sweating by the end of it and very, very like stressed out. And Dave was like, "Wow, you stressed out a lot during these." I'm like, "Try being a healer." Yeah, right. You haven't had time to play since Wednesday. You're already at level 55. Right, exactly. It's just been effortless, which is wonderful. Like, because then you can get, then you pop 60 and you're like, oh, cool. And then you finish the story and there's, we'll see how they are with everything else. Like, my big complaint is that because David likes progression, I haven't had time to just sit and fish or something to level my fishing and cooking and my alchemy, which I usually do right off the bat. I try to get the leveling for those kind of out of the way while I'm leveling, so I don't have to farm too much. So I haven't been able to do that because my boyfriend is very progression based. He sounds like he wants to get into raiding this expansion. David does. I'm like, oh, do I want to open that Pandora's box? So we'll see. Now I'm green. Hold on. Yeah, we'll just move it. You guys have seen how I'm loading it. All right, so what I'm doing here is I'm getting just when you've got a long expanse like this upper edge where that technically, that it would be highlighted. You want to break it up still. Like, because if you just do one long band of white, it doesn't look right. But if you do a couple of different, like, white bands, then it looks like just you've got a couple, you've got light sources being interrupted. Maybe this light is coming from this direction. This light is coming from this direction. Light source would naturally get interrupted, especially with him waving his arm around like that. So putting a shadow in between your bands of highlight on the top here both helps you kind of keep it interesting and still keeps it, like, viable with the way it would be. Right under that, you're, of course, going to have a shadow on this, but you're probably also going to have a little bit of an under reflection. So I'm looking at the light coming down. You can see exactly, if you look down, you can see it does hit the top of this plate and it hits the top edge, but it also is going to probably reflect up a little bit onto this, the lower part of this, because we don't want to just leave this entire area dark. And we are going to highlight these rivets just a little. They'll catch a little bit of the light. We can get away with that. Well, except that if you lose enough DPS, then you've totally drawn out the fight to the point where you're going to run out of mana val when you've got a tank that was pulling as aggressively as I had. Like, it's all a dance. You can't just let the DPS die. I learned that very much so in raiding. So I am the type to heal the entire raid and hope that they kill it fast enough that I don't run out of mana. There, so I'm going to highlight. So, all right, so we're looking pretty good here. If I look at it, what the point of this exercise is to get all of your highlight shadows and midtones down to the point where it looks like metal, all over, like just to do it fast, just to block it in. You're not trying to blend so much as you're trying to just place your highlights and shadows and get that all blocked in. So then you have time later to refine it. I'm gonna block in just a tiny bit of reflection here to see if I can make that look right. And I'm gonna have to put kind of a demarcation line between those two areas. Yeah, I mean, DPS, if your DPS are dumb, there's no way you're going to be able to keep them up anyway, right? So you shouldn't waste resources on them. I totally do get that, but I am not just a main tank healer. Back in the day, back in vanilla, I was a raid healer. I was the person they threw on the team that was healing the entire raid. And because I had a lot of mana regen, so I could do it a little bit better. And I always felt main tank healing was boring. Alright, so we're going to get some dark shadows in here. Again, when you are doing any area, you want some shadows and some highlights. So what I'm going to do is get some shadows. I'm using pure black for my shadows since I'm using blue liner plus a little tad of white as my main tone. This is a bit reflective, but hopefully you guys see. Yeah, there you can see. So I've got shadow, shadow. I've got a highlight down the middle. The highlight's not going to be bright because it's only getting reflected light. It's not, the main light source, see, does not hit that area. So, yeah, don't stand in the 9,000 other potential. Yeah, what I really hate is all the kiting and movement nowadays. Like, I'm a holy priest. We do our best when we can actually stand and, like, heal people. And WoW just has so many dance steps nowadays that I'm just like, arg. I've never been good at dance steps, not in real life and not in video games. So for me, it's stressful, and trying to figure out how to do it is annoying until I finally get it down. I need more practice at it than most other people, I think. Not used to the dance steps. All right, so there. So what I did is, here you can see it. I did a little bit of a bigger highlight toward the bottom of here, because remember, the only reason there's light on this surface is from the reflected light. So I've got a strong highlight coming in here, and that means the strongest reflected light is going to be right next to it. And I can emphasize that by grabbing a little more white and really kind of popping a highlight there, so that I'm really making it look like there should be a reflected light. And then I can make that even a little stronger. You're dancing around because you want to make all of the surfaces interesting, but you also need to keep in mind what you're doing as far as, like, realism. Like, you've got to make the metal look like metal, and that means that you're constrained to certain sets of rules, and you can't just all go all stylistic on everything. There's also kind of an edge that comes down here because it bends, so I'm going to bring a highlight down here, and same on the other side. So now it looks like this. Now we're starting to really see some of this light, although I do need to center this highlight a bit more. It's a little bit too far over. Remember, your highlights should always kind of be in line with each other. So if we've got a highlight here in the center, and we've got a highlight here, so the light's going straight down the middle, then we need this highlight to be the same. It needs to be in the middle. So that you can see that light travel down the surface. And likewise, that's why we've got highlights here, we've got highlights here. All this light is reflected down the sides, this light is reflected. It's all in a line. When you've got light coming from above, line up your highlights and line up your shadows. So I've got a shadow here. That means all in here should be. Unfortunately, this is all going to be gold, all this detailing. So I'm not going to be able to put my shadow in there. I'm just going to have to satisfy myself with putting it in the areas that are iron. So here and down here. So those two areas, because it lines up with where it is up here, see? So if you know you're going to be painting over a detail with a different color or a different whatever, just ignore it when it gets to your shadows and highlights. Just try to kind of look at it and make sure that you've got your shadow coming down in a line, your shadow coming down in a line, your highlight coming down in a line. Be consistent. Yes, I remember our beard. I rated in vanilla from Molten Core on all the way up to Lich King. I think after we cleared Ulduar, and I think it was Nax that busted us. We couldn't get, well, in 40-man raid, we couldn't get enough people for Nax. Like, our guild was just kind of falling apart at that point. we'd done a lot, but I haven't raided since that time. Well, I tried to put together a friends raid group in Pandaria because you could have just 10 people, which I really always liked the 10-man raids. I liked Karazhan. That was a fun raid. Yeah, interesting. That sounds like sourdough stuffing bread to me, Twisted Oma. So, all right. So, if you want to grab some, if you want to thin down your paint on a wet palette, guys, you pretty much have to grab some water from either your edge of your wet palette, like, back in the crack outside of the paper, or if you've got a puddle on your wet palette, you can grab water from there. And you are thinning every brushful as you put it on, so like I often tell people, if you are a new painter, the wet palette may be very counterintuitive for you because you're not going to understand paint consistency just magically off the bat. And so when you're trying to get your paint to be the right consistency, you may run into issues. So, all right, so now we've got our lined up. We need a little bit more, need to fix our top of our thing. Yeah, Ash, I hate it, but I'm using it because I'm going fast. And so I'm fast and I'm limited palette. That's still frustrating the bejeebus out of me. Because I really don't, I don't like them. They don't fit my style. But since I'm blocking things in right now, all right, so that looks more or less right. Now we got to deal with the outer edge. We haven't touched the outer edge, and this is where our outside reflections and under reflections are going to come in. So now we need to deal with that. But yeah, there's a reason I don't like wet palettes, because I like to use thin paint, and I hate having to mix every little brush full and not being able to control my paint consistency. They annoy me. It's just not for me. But I use them every once in a while to prove that I can, and to talk about, if you are going to use them, how you can get around some of the problems, like I just mentioned. If you want to make a very thin layer of paint, you've got to mix, water into your brush and then pick up just a tiny bit of paint, maybe mix it right on the palette top. But you're going to end up mixing every single brush full to, the level you want, which is why it's so hard for people who use wet palettes to do smooth blending. Like, they almost always have to switch to a well palette for smooth blending, unless they're really, really good at judging the paint consistency. Yeah, you could also just keep a bottle cap of water. It's Ash, if you want to thin down your paint and you don't want to have to dip your brush in, like, I usually just dip my brush in the side here if I need it, or I grab one of these beads of water that I've popped up on my palette because I went really wet today. But for people who want access to water, having a well or a bottle cap full of water or something close where you can just get a tiny bit of water that you can see how much you're picking up can be useful. All right. But yeah, I mean, once you have once you get good enough to have like an understanding of what paint consistency you really need for various tasks and techniques, then you can go for the wet palette, no problem, and maybe it won't annoy you. I just hate how it constantly thins my paint down. Like, I like having things exactly the way I want them. Okay, so we've got rivets and we've got a highlight. See this under reflection? It's never going to be as bright as where your light is actually hitting the object. It's always going to be a little bit darker. But you need this reflection along the bottom edge. You have to have it, or it's not going to look like metal. Slime cats are currently my mascots up above racks. I have not even had time. I'm like, this is why I don't like to accept like gifts, because it's like, it puts pressure on me to like do something with them. And I've got so much I'm already overwhelmed by that, so slime cats may make a appearance, but I have not planned, especially now that, my own stream, which I'm even thinking about canceling this week because I'm just that buried, guys. My own stream is moved away from just a painting stream, but I have no idea. I'm totally. Right now, they're mascots. That's it. No, Vithiel, unless you dip it in super glue. Like this sucker, I've been abusing the heck out of this brush for almost a full year now. And although I definitely need to clean it, I can see how it's getting kind of, some paint here and there. You can see the mottled effect down there. But my tip is still razor. Like, look at it. It's gorgeous. Like, if you're using it over really rough surfaces, or you are using it with caustic stuff like lacquers, like actual lacquered like inks and things that are not water, not just the acrylic inks, but traditional artist inks that are built with lacquers, those can dry out your bristles. um, and like the only thing I can think of is you put it in something that dried out or compromised your bristles that made them more fragile. Like the only way a hair should have a tip break off is if you've exposed it to something chemical that has made it very fragile. Like, that's the only way. On normal usage with water-based paint, you should have no problem. Like, I mean, I don't even condition my brushes, and I mean, they keep this. Like, the only time my brushes get compromised is when I accidentally get them too close to a puddle of super glue. And then they're done. Then you may as well just toss it. Like, the tip is gone. Well, I just had a nice refresh period over Thanksgiving. It's just that, like, I also have Greg's stuff, to do Snack Lady Space, but at this point, like, it's great and I want to use it, but I can't do it right now. There comes a point, because remember, I've got a lot. Like, I've got the Patreon, I've got my streamings, I've got my personal streams, the D&D game, which definitely is adding a little bit of pressure now. As far as like getting things ready for it, because prepping for a game is prepping for a game. I've got my dog club, which is in high key right now, which is my, other part-time job. And I've got trying to keep my exercise regimen up, trying to, spend time with David, cooking. It's a lot. And so kind of had a come to Jesus meeting with myself this holiday weekend where I'm just like, if something is stressing me out, I'm going to cancel it temporarily and just deal with it. I'm not going to give myself guilt. I decided I was not going to kill myself trying to get to the end of Nano, and I was not. If it was stressing me out, then it was counterproductive. Like, it's to the point where I have so much stress in my life that anything that is really stressing me out, I'm going to question whether I need it in my life, at least for a little while. So anything that adds stress right now, and trying to shoehorn slime cats into a stream that they don't fit in would be like that. Like, I don't even know where to put slime cats in. No, I mean, the Winsor Newton brush cleaner, I use it, Vithiel. It will dry off your bristles a little bit, but I mean, I've never had them break after I use it. Like, if you're worried about that, then just put some hair conditioner in your brush after you use the brush cleaner. But I've never had that. I mean, it's brush cleaner. It's supposed to be good. Like, and you should never, though that said, Winsor Newton brush cleaner, I don't think is something that you should use regularly. Like, if you're gonna use a brush cleaner every day, which I don't know why you would, but if you would, then use pink soap. The Winsor Newton brush cleaner is strong stuff, and I only use it when I've got paint that's starting to get clogged into the ferrule. It's the only time I use that stuff. Like, I don't clean my brushes normally. Normally, as I'm working on it, I will see a spot and touch it up the minute I see it, Ash. Like, up here, I can see I missed a spot, like there, right? So, but I would catch this because I haven't painted this part yet. So as I look at every single, like, that's why when I paint piecemeal like this, it's easy for me to catch things like that. Because I'm looking at, okay, I just finished this area. And I look at it and I look all around it. Okay, it's good. You're always going to see something. And when you photo your mini, sometimes you will see a spot that you missed or that paint rubbed off and you forgot. Well, then you got to go back and get it. It's just kind of annoying. We all have to deal with that. Hey, Robin, thank you. 1 year anniversary, subiversary. That is a question for questions at Reaper Mini or help at reapermini.com, Hagar. I honestly, I don't even work on site for Reaper anymore. So the Kickstarter is nothing I even know about. I locked in my pledge manager ages ago. I didn't need to get it to send a new password. But you should email them right away because, you want to be able to lock in. But they extended it, so you have some time. I thought they extended it, didn't they, Justin? Wasn't the pledge manager extended? A little bit? Justin is busy. Or you're muted. If we can't hear you either way, Justin. If anybody knows, chime in. Haha. First of all, it's Anne, A-N-N-E. So, not Anna. I've never been an Anna. But yeah, I actually don't have any help I can give you there except to give you the proper email to email questions to. But I mean, if you're prompt and email questions or help at Reaper Mini, Katie's on that stuff every day, or at least it used to be Katie. I don't know if it still is. And she can hopefully help you with that. But I think it's not really closed. You can keep putting in orders. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, correcting you like a boss, you bet. You all know, except for those of you who maybe have like really normal names that never get misspelled. But I'm willing to bet that people, even like John, gets misspelled. I bet it's John, Jon. So yeah, totally. Everybody knows the annoyance of somebody misspelling their name. But yeah, just email Reaper. You're fine. We're not ogres. We're not gonna go ha ha ha. You didn't get your pledge locked in. No, we want people to get their pledges locked in. It is the biggest annoyance to us ever when people do not lock in their pledges and then come back to us 2 years later going, I never got my stuff. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's annoying, Chibi. Huh, yeah, I never have needed that, Vithiel. Alright, so here we are. We've got this set up mostly. Sorry, getting distracted. Getting little flags. Yes, Collins. Absolutely. Sorry. Getting little messages I must respond to. Alright. And then we're going to hit our little rivets. So this is blocked in pretty fast. I ended up getting distracted by chat and took more time than I wanted, but we've at least got that whole plate pretty much set in. Now, one thing we can do is we can highlight more down there, because with the light coming straight down, you are going to see a stronger reflection. So just like here, where when you have a light right there, you get a stronger reflection right above it. Down here, you can see the light's glancing off this very strongly, so that means it's hitting this upper edge, and it's going to get you a stronger reflection down under. So you can do that. Oh, initial pledge needs to be closed, otherwise your pledge is moved back to a later wave. I see. That's okay, Hagar. I know, I've seen you around. Need to lock in at least, yeah. Email help at Reaper Mini. Especially when it's getting close to lock-in time, I'm sure that they're getting a lot of questions like this. So yeah, just don't waste your time talking to me, Hagar. I can't do a thing. Even if I knew the answer, I couldn't help you because I'm not the one who has any access to Kickstarter stuff. My answer is always contact the appropriate authority. Such a cop-out, right? Alright, so there. So see, we've got a stronger under reflection here. There we go. Here we go. There we are. So a little bit stronger. So you see it's darker up here, and then it fades up to that. So, okay. But anyway, Rax was talking about Slime Kitten, so I am going to show people Slime Kitten. If you didn't see Slime Kitten, Rax's son made these. They're really cool. I'm sad that I have not been able to paint them or use them yet. But they are really cute. And creepy. Extremely creepy. They are cute. But I missed the Halloween window to use them. Melty kitties, yeah, Orcarol. Yes, and Rax's son designed them and he got them 3D sculpted, which is really cool. All right, let's try to do this big plate thing. So this is kind of weird, and since it's overshadowed by this, we're mostly going to get highlight glancing off the bottom here like we did here. The same kind of shape, right? So you can treat it the same way. And so just marking a really strong highlight coming down that. Wet palettes always make me want to wet blend, because it's just easier at that point because I'm using the thicker paint. So if I want to get a blend, it's much easier to do that than with layering. So I can get a blend like that. Yeah, they're really cute. The slimy kitties. Rex was nice enough to send me a few. And I just did not get to doing them on my own personal stream. Work-life balance is a elusive beast, everybody. Sometimes I feel like I'm on top of stuff, and then, then something just hits you, and you're just like, whoa. Like, I'm behind, and I didn't think I was behind. And then you freak out a little. I try not to freak out, because, it doesn't do any good. But sometimes I do. Plus, I've had a Catholic upbringing, so I feel horribly guilty for not using the slime kitties. All right, so let's see here. Gonna fit a shadow in. So this is gonna be kind of weird because there's definitely a shadow, so we definitely should not have a highlight right under it. So normally when you see a piece of metal, you should have a highlight. We got to ask ourselves, there is light bouncing back up at here from here. But now I'm looking at it, I'm feeling like I needed a darker shadow on this red. And I needed, no highlight here. Because this really is a shadow. It should be a dark shadow. I mean, there is a little light here, but there's not a lot of light bouncing back up this undersurface. So then I have to question myself, did I do it right? So the answer here, is probably that there needs to be a broad highlight. This is such a weird surface, too. This is where we get into the weird surfaces. Trying to do NMM on weird surfaces. So I'm going to play around with doing a couple of highlights here. And the highlights are probably going to start dropping down. The way I'm placing these is here. So I can see that the light actually does drop down past his head here. And it's around the side of his stomach. So it's not bulging out here. It's more vertical. So we could get a highlight in here. We're just going to block it in. Block, block, block. Don't overthink it. Try to place it logically, though. And then we can kind of blend it in a little bit with some wet blending. Oh, Ed is the boss. Nope, Ron is our art director, guys. Sorry, I missed those questions. Trying to actually concentrate on these guys and troubleshoot so that you guys can actually learn something from this. So yeah, so then our highlights go like this. Blocking in all the harshest highlights. So we've got highlight here, highlight there, highlight there. All of these places, light can fall down here. I can bring my brush down and show the light falls down there. Light will not fall down onto this surface, but it will fall down to this outer edge. I can hit that with my brush, or almost close enough that I can pull that effect. Ron is the art director, and so he guides Reaper's creative like sway. So like, how are which minis get made, which sculpts does Ron buy. It's that sort of thing. He works with the sculptors, he works with visual artists to get concept pieces like Izzy. I'm glad you like. Yeah, everybody seems to like the Fire Giant's beard. I'm glad you guys like it. All right, so I think that's gonna work. I have a shadow here under the arm. I may need this highlight to move back a little bit. Now's where we're getting in really weird, where it's like, it's just such an odd piece of metal, and I really have to think about where the highlights are going. Because I definitely have a straight highlight down the front. I do have a highlight down the side, though, here, if you look, right? We've got it there and there, so if I carry it down, then it should be here. So I have this a little bit too far forward. So if you can just figure out your highlights all in a row, then you can be consistent and your metal will look correct. So I want to look at where that is, and I want to bring that down right here, which also puts us right in line with this and that. So we are bringing it down where we need it to be. I like the model just fine. I just don't think that's one I'm going to finish. There are a lot of mold lines. Mostly when it comes down to it, John David Speaks, it's like there are a lot of mold lines. So I'm like, I don't know that I want to finish it. Yeah, I lose love for a model when there's a lot of prep I didn't do, like, especially with something this big. And then there's also the fact that, like I said before, as I work on this, it's just going to be, a lot of stuff is just going to be repeating things we already did, right? Because he repeats certain things across like the other armlet is going to be just like this armlet and stuff like that. So then I have to question whether it's valuable for you guys at all. Because, it's like, it's a lot of repetition and, stuff like that. And if I'm not excited about it, then I won't work on it. So really, we'll see. If I keep working on him, then I keep working on him. If I lose the joy, then he'll probably kind of go and sit on the shelf for a long time. Unless I drag him out again at some point. But he's nothing that I would ever submit to go in the gallery at Reaper, because he's just got a lot of mold lines and stuff that I didn't bother to correct early on. Kind of bringing down this highlight just a little bit, and you see how I'm fading it out. Again, I'm doing this with wet blending, more or less. Wet blending is the key when you're working with a wet palette, in my opinion. Did I miss anything else? Haha, Chroniko, you're funny. It's all, John David Speaks, it's all just, do I have the enthusiasm to finish it? Like, that's purely what it is. Like with Juliana, I loved her. She was great with the Duelist model. I'm excited to work on them still. But if I lose the love and don't feel like working on this guy, I'm not going to finish him. There's no obligation for me to do so. So it's purely, am I still excited about the model? Like, that's it. And I often am not very excited about this model. Like, I look at it and I just see a bunch of stuff that, I worked on already, and that is going to be more of the same for you guys. So that's how I make my decisions, like, a lot of the time on what I finish on the show. Like, I've only finished, I think, one thing. I think Juliana was the only thing we have actually finished on the show. And then I started choosing models and prepping the models better so that I would be able to finish more things on the show for you guys, so you can see everything start to finish. More or less. Here, bringing up the light there. Well, you still can, John David. I mean, like, just because I don't paint everything on this model, hypothetically, I should be giving you enough information for you to be able to finish it yourself. If I'm not, then I'm failing as a teacher. And this isn't really a paint along. I do that on my Patreon. I do a real paint along, like every step in excruciating detail without all the chat on my Patreon. But there are several of these things you could use. Like I said, I'm hopefully giving you enough information that you can take what I've done and finish the model from it. Like everything I'm talking about here about highlight placement, if you take that to heart and you practice it, it should hold you in good enough stead that you can do this yourself. Even if I don't show you how to do the other leg, you should still be able to do the other leg. I've been meaning to even sell a finished one. I haven't even got around to that. But I only sell models on the Patreon. As far as like if I feel like selling something I've worked on. There's like depends on the model, like it either will get sent to Reaper or I'll decide to sell it. Depending. Juliana's going to Reaper. I keep saying that, but I haven't made it to the post office because we're not leaving the house because COVID. Ron will get his Juliana eventually. Alright, so I'm trying to like just adjust this with wet blending. I want to make a nice dark shadow here. I need another dark shadow here. I need to look at where my shadows are here, make sure they're in line. This shadow is definitely coming down like this. This is where it gets hard on a big model like this, where you're just like, gosh, where are my shadows? Where are my highlights? I gotta make sure everything lines up. It can get rough. Oh, I don't like to do that. Like that I don't like to sell unfinished models. Like I always said that the thing we should do with my unfinished Pro Tips models should be to auction them off at ReaperCon, in the ReaperCon auction. I don't like taking money for unfinished work. It just doesn't make sense to me. But if we did it at ReaperCon, then we could, people who wanted them could still get them as references. Trying to, there we go. Got it. Alright, so you can see the difference between the pure black and the blue around it. I'm trying to bring a shadow in line with the shadow I've got coming down here. Highlights roughly coming down here. You just need to get close. You don't need to be super precise about it. I do see a place I messed it up. Sorry, trying to keep my back straight here. It is there we go. Wanted to bring in a little bit more light there so that it made sense more with this. And I need to bring that highlight up more. I probably need a highlight like there at the start of where that plate comes down. This is all just troubleshooting. Troubleshooting NMM. This is a really big, complicated piece to do NMM on. But if we did it with metallics, it would feel like cheating. You could do it very fast, I think, with shaded metallics. You wouldn't be able to get the little details as well. But, I mean, a lot of the details on him are pretty big, so he's actually a model that probably would work really well with metallics. Forgot that the interior of this little thing would probably have a highlight on it. And my paint's getting really watery now. Thank you, wet palette. Not. So a little bit of a highlight there because I decided that was going to be blue in the middle here instead of gold. So now I'll decide to do gold in a ring around that and gold in this textured ring around the bigger thing. And that will hopefully all work together. Gonna bring this down the center kind of with a more of a straight line. And this will have a highlight on it to make that light look right. And then I think I do need to shade in a little bit more. So once again, it's kind of like the surface you're dealing with. This is a rounded surface, so we have a rounded highlight. This is a rounded surface, so we have a rounded highlight. This is more angular. Then you get down to here, and this is a very flat surface, so the light's just kind of zigzagging, going kind of in a broken line upwards over this to make that effect. It would not be rounded because this surface is not rounded. So always think about the shape of your highlights and shadows when you're doing this sort of thing. I want to bring in my shadow a little bit more. I kind of feel like I want to bring in a shadow like really high and then do a secondary highlight band. So let's try that. Feel like I'm missing something. So all right, so one way you can mess up your NMM, break up your NMM, is you can do kind of a little secondary like reflection highlight type of thing. Let's see if it works. I feel like this is all big and blank and needs help. So I'm going to do a secondary highlight kind of thing. What this is like all of this centerpiece should be getting some light. But there's probably stuff out there in the environment that's breaking up this light. And so that's why I've decided to put a little bit of a shadow in here and break it up myself and then bring the highlight up. So we're going to try this and see if it works. And if it works right, it should give us a lot more interesting surface. We still want to pay attention to having our darkest shadow areas to be, where they belong. So we definitely want to keep these and this one over here, but we can bring in a little bit of shadow toward the center to kind of imply that there are things interrupting our light source. So kind of break it up. And then bring our white again. And maybe bring up a little bit, highlight here. A little bit. Keep the one in the center strongest though. Let's see if I can get this to work. I kind of like how it looks. This is where having layering, having like a well palette would work better for me. Because I need this white to be at a decent consistency so I can pull off this effect. And instead I'm having to kind of wet blend it and spot glaze it and get it, try to influence it to work right. Yeah, see, I managed to lose most of that at that point. So I have to question if I need to bring it back in a little bit more. Mostly we're just trying to bring in some variance, so it's not just one big flat same area. I think that's looking okay. I want to re-bring up that highlight. But do you guys see what I mean about, like, my paint isn't the right consistency. I'm having to muck with it a lot. Because ideally, when I'm working with pure white here, I'd be working with it really thin. And instead, I have to mix every brushful. So that's why it's taking me... Actually, this is working... The wet palette is working against me here. As far as speed goes. It's not enabling me to do things as fast as I actually could do them with the well palette at this point. So both palettes have strengths and weaknesses. Always remember. But when you're trying to work with thinner paint, especially here, when I'm working with pure white, which is the most futzy paint to work with as far as thinning it, if I don't have my everything down, then it's not going to look good. So that means mucking around with it a lot more. I think I like where these highlights are. They just need to get, like, doctored a bit. And I find with the well palette or wet palette, there's definitely a risk of overworking an area, what they call overworking an area, where you just get lots of layers of paint and it's all very mucky and you're starting to see texture and you're just like, argh, no. I find that this is a lot more of a problem with a wet palette than it is with a well. For me. And this could be just my, the way that I use the well is just, sadly leads to that. Could be my own, could be user error on this one. Because it's not my preferred method. So we've got some light going on at least, and we can see it. We've got a shadow. And we are focusing our light more toward the bottom. So that's good. So this hasn't been as fast as I wanted it to be. Like, I really wanted to get this speedy down. And instead I got distracted by doing little details. I do want to get up a little bit of a highlight. You do need a little highlight on the rivets. Even when they're in shadow, you need to kind of bring them out. But you can make that highlight a little bit more subdued. So I can take some blue liner and kind of bring it down a little bit. So it's not as bright. Like so. We got a little bit of light. Might have a little bit of light coming from a different direction, like more from the side. But there, that's not too bad. So that at least reads a little bit more interesting. Let's do a foot. Where is my... I need a big flat brush. I want my speed to paint everything brush. Let's see if my paint is too thin. Yeah, it's not bad. Now I'm getting to the point where I'm in danger because I have to hang on to... Oh, wait. Where's my... Hold on. Hold on. It's time for bubble wrap. 1 second. Oh, wait. I've got a little square right here. Time for bubble wrap. When you have to hold on to part of the mini that you have already painted, get your bubble wrap. So yeah, this is adhering pretty well for being thinned. This is straight up blue liner. For being thinned by the wet palette, it's actually holding together pretty well. Some parts, again, of this leg greave are going to be gold, but I'm going to ignore them for now, just to get a quick base coat on. A lot of the area in the interior of the leg is going to stay very dark because of the skirt and the cape on the back. So block it in dark. You may not end up doing much of anything to it. I feel like I did not get adequate sleep last night. I feel like I'm a little bit tired. I hate that when that happens. Isn't that worse on a Monday? Are you guys all out there? There we go. Right, exactly. Yeah, Kariniko. Yeah, weather definitely has an effect, right? Temperature and humidity, ambient temperature and humidity. All right, so we're going to let that dry for the most part. Now, we know the highlight is going to, just based on where our highlight's dropping down here, we know that our highlight is going to go all the way down the front of the leg, like right here. So we've got light dropping down here, means that your highlight's probably going to be here, dropping on the front of the leg to there. So let's see here. Boom, boom. Let's just paint that. Let's just put a stripe down. Stripe. Quick stripey thing. So that's an interesting effect, but it does let us kind of look at it and see if our light sourcing makes sense. I'm going to bring it over a little bit. More like this. So if we look at that, and that's just like splotched in, right? So I'm just blending it just a little bit with my flat here because I can. There. All right. So our task with blocking that in is to compare it with our primary light source, which comes down like this. So our question is, does this look correct? If I just look at the light, if I don't look at the shape or the blending or the fact that it's just a streaky line, but if I kind of squint my eyes or look at it on the camera from zoomed out and say, okay, is this about right? Is this where the light should come down? Does it look right or does it look wrong? And I think it looks pretty right. So I think that's where my light, yeah, if I look at it from the front, this all makes sense. Like, I'm going to need another highlight probably up here on the top of this. like a secondary highlight there, because it's going to be kind of in line with that right there. And I'm going to have some under reflections coming in, like on the inside of the foot. And I'm going to have another layer of highlight coming down here. These are such big, broad areas. Yeah, sleepy. Yeah, if my painting area is messy, it's really hard to stay focused. I'm with you there on Shadow Raven. So another side highlight. Remember, we're keeping a shadow in between. Got too much paint on my brush, so I'm going to rinse it off. That's the problem with using a big, fat, flat brush, is that you get too much white on it, and then all your shadows are compromised. Hold on. Oh, no, and I got black all over myself somehow. Ah, pardon me, guys. Today is just one of those days. It's definitely a Monday. Like, look, I'm all blacked. I'm blacked out. I have accidentally blacked myself. Oh, I see what happened. I dipped my bubble wrap in the black. That's why we're compromised. Hold on. Must correct. Must stop getting black all over myself. And, you know, because once you get black all over yourself, getting it on the model is inevitable. Right? So pardon me while I get a Kleenex, which is the closest thing to a paper towel I have within reach. And kind of clean up my horrible bubble wrap. There we go. So that's where I should have had my bubble wrap wrapped much tighter around the model. And you could totally do that if you're going to work with it. Like when I was working on Soldier, who's a huge, like, foot-tall statue, I would absolutely tape the bubble wrap around him so that it would stay where I needed it to be and not get off-center or off parts of the model I needed it to stay on. So that's a good strategy that I totally did not do this time because I was trying to move fast. See, moving fast. It gets you guys. It gets you. Yeah, this black's okay. I got most of it off of me. Probably because it was thinned. It makes a difference when it's thinned. Alright, so there we go. We got the black off of us and off of the bubble wrap. We're good. We're good to go. So now, I actually do need that black to bring in a shadow on this leg, I think. Boop. A darker shadow. So I want to bring in something really black, something really dark. Because remember, on either side of our highlight, we get that. So dark and dark, bringing in some really darks. And I didn't blend that stripe in, so it's very much stripey. Ah! And I keep pulling Justin out of my ear because it's Monday. Alrighty. Boom. Okie dokie. I need to blend that in a little better. Oh, we just got a COVID upgrade. Like downgrade, actually, where they've got more safety precautions in place. Because it's just been that bad lately. That's why we've mostly been staying in. Today is grocery day. The one day a week I go out of the house other than to take the dog out. Alright, so trying to blend that. I feel like I've been very messy today. I'm not being a very neat Anne today. I feel like today is like one of those days where you just do the best you can do, you know, with what you've got, which may not be optimal, but it's what you've got, you know. Is it one of those days? I'm just trying to stay on top of life sometimes, you know. There we go. So blacking in that shadow. So do you guys see though how that works? Like as far as it's just roughed in, but it works with where our highlights are coming from. I actually need to tighten it up a lot because, of course, the highlight wouldn't be this broad. If this leg greave was really, really burnished, like it was a really not very shiny, more of a dull metal, then you'd get a highlight this broad. But if you want it to look shinier, then you need to tighten that highlight up. So we need to kind of look at where our highlight should be. Kind of bring, with little dashes, kind of bring up where you want your highlight to be, like the straight up highlight. Carry it down the leg. To make it just a lot tighter, not as diffused. I think I went over a little bit too far there. Remember, just kind of draw a line. Draw a line. Adjust your line if you feel like you've gotten outside of the line. But light is going to travel in that line, so we need to make sure that it stays. See, this is looking good. This part of it is looking good. This part's a little bit dicey up here, I think. And I think the problem is that I'm trying to make it in line with my light sourcing here. And I'm losing a little bit of it. Like it's a little bit rough. No, it's not too bad. It's just that really the thing is that this, you would at first be inclined to say that this isn't matching with that. But the thing is that what you really need it to match with is this big band around the waist, because this is a very different shape than the leg is. So you've got to keep that in mind when you're looking at this. The main highlight is right up here, glancing off here and here and here. So what I need to do if I want it to make it look like it's going to be more in line is I need to raise this highlight here. Yeah, right, D. Clearman. It's the holidays. I think the holidays just bring extra stress. I'm trying to like get a handle on it. Oh, and that's the double problem. See the bubble wrap has been attacked again by the paint, by the wet palette. This never happens when I'm using a well palette, guys. I blame wet palette. Come here, bubble wrap. You are now a liability. I must dip you in the water. There. We're just gonna work on the leg and hold on to the other leg, so I can avoid painting myself more, because I'm sick of it. Well, at least you guys know it's not just you, right? Professional painter, quote unquote. Professional painter also does this. Dips her arm in the paint. Dips bubble wrap in the paint. Spills paint all over herself. It's that type of day. Alright, bubble wrap. And put bubble wrap aside to dry. I have all these awesome models to prep for you guys too that we can start on. And I totally did not do it this weekend when I had all this time. It's very silly. Alright, let's turn this so that I can not put my hand in the parchment that I just dipped all in the paint. Alright, so we got to bring this up a little bit. I guess what's working against me with my fast painting attempt is the fact that I do like to tune everything as I go, because I do like to get to a point where I at least have a soft finish on areas. So my own habit is working against me as I try to paint faster than I usually do. Alright, so straight down here. I want that solid. Alright. I want this to have more of a highlight. I want this to be stronger, that to be stronger. I want to really make the eye come right down to there. That's looking a little better. A little bit stronger. If I was doing something like NMM Gold, I don't think I would use the wet palette, because I'm saved here by the fact that I'm only working with 3 colors, black, white, and blue liner. And so I can't really get myself into a lot of trouble that way. Hold on. Putting an interference shadow in there. Sounds like a normal Monday. I don't know. I like Mondays normally because I come when I've had a nice long weekend like this. I usually come off of the Monday off of the weekend with a lot of energy and can be really productive and proactive. Like I'm looking forward to doing my video later for a paint along. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if that's better or worse or okay or what, but it's more or less reading right, so we'll go with it. Okay. So let's get this highlight even stronger. There we go. So notice how bringing that up to white starts making it look a lot more shiny. This is key. A lot of beginners, when they first start non-metallic metal, they don't go up to white. They're timid about it, and so their metal looks more like stone. You have to have that bright white highlight, or really, really close to white, on metal, or it will not look correct. Whatever your light source is, really. It has to be really hot. Yeah, blue liner, Ash. This bluish color that I'm getting with my metal is because I'm using blue liner as my base, not black. So that's why I'm getting the blue shift, which is what I want because it's a complementary color to the orange that I'm using. So I'm also, this is kind of a double like whammy because I'm using orange and I've got blue in the armor, so I'm using two complementary colors. But this is also a red, yellow, blue primary triad color scheme because we have red and yellow for the gold and blue for the armor. So even though they're, except for the red is an obvious like component, but the other ones are more subtle, right? Because the gold isn't a bright yellow, it's just gold, and the blue liner is very, very dark. But yeah, it's that unfortunately my label is really, really faded, but it's 9066 blue liner. Liners are more fluid paints, Ash, that are meant to be used to draw like these little dark lines where one surface meets another. They're meant to do that very well, but they also work great as regular paints, and blue liner is one of my favorite colors when you add white to it. I love how it looks. I love this blue-black color that you get. So I use it whenever I have to do like a dark iron armor, like on Fire Giants is the most likely, but sometimes also on like Vampire Knights and things like that. Vampires that have strong armor on them. Because it goes so well with red and orange. And those are colors that you're going to be using on vampires and Fire Giants and things like that. So, yeah, 9066 blue liner. You can use it like a regular paint. You can thin it and use it like a liner. I use it like a regular paint a lot because I just love the color that it makes. And I like how, if I have to do dark metal, this is my choice. Let's see here. All right, let's do some. Yeah, whenever I have to do black, something black, I tend to reach for another color to do it with. I almost never use pure black. In this case, I'm using pure black as a shadow for the blue liner just because it's the only thing that's darker than the blue liner. So this leg counts as a cylinder. And when you have a cylinder, you have like a highlight and then a shadow and then a highlight and then a shadow and then a highlight all in line with the, you can see it here. Let's see, where's my light? There it is. See how you have shadows on either side of that white bar. One of the shadows is darker than the other because of what's around it. There you go. So you usually will see that. You usually will see a darker shadow on one side than on the other. So on this side of the leg, it's going to definitely be the dark shadow over here. This is still going to be dark, but I'll bring it up a bit with some blue liner mixed with white. Yeah, Vic. Yeah, blue liner is awesome. Like, it's just if you like this blue-black color, if you're one of those people who, like me, thinks it's like a fantastic color, it's worth getting. Okay, so now I need to bring in a little bit more of this blue color to lighten up the spaces between here. I want a little dark with my shadow, so I'm going to bring it up a little. We'll go a little bit longer because we started late, but I don't want to go too long. Don't want to hurt myself since my back has been kind of jinxy. Thanks to Kiri, who's asleep happily right now. So that's a secondary highlight. So when we do this, you can see there's a secondary highlight on the edges. See where my finger goes? You can see the color in there. This is because this is a very shiny ferrule. But you'll always see, there you go. You'll see the shadow, the band of shadow, and then the band of highlight. And now if I take this down here, there, perfect. See it? Look at the highlight in the center of the brush, how it's straight down, and then see there's a shadow on either side of it, and then see how it goes out to a highlight on either edge. That's how you highlight a metal cylinder, guys, whether it's an armor plate or something else. That's how you do it, and that's how we're doing it here. We're doing a highlight down the middle, followed by a shadow, followed by another highlight, and so on. We'll have a tiny bit of highlight on the inside of this leg. It's somewhat interrupted here because we've got such this deep shadow on the inside of the leg. But that is, just look at your paintbrush. That's how you do a metal cylinder. Cylinders are easy. Or simple at any rate. They're simple to understand. Okay, let's see here. Where am I? We're trying to wrap things up a little bit. So you guys have any questions? Other than how does Anne keep dipping her hand in her paint so much? Like, I have that question. Like, that's a constant question at this point. Ah! Also, I'm being attacked. Aggroed by my ear cord. Like, has everything I said made sense? Do you see how our leg is starting to come out now? At least I got one leg kind of blocked in, even if I was slow on the other stuff. Everybody's working. It's Monday after a holiday weekend. You're all like totally involved in actually doing work for once. That's why I've got silent chat. Silent chat. I live in a vacuum. My chat is gone. There, a little bit more highlight. Sometimes you want to take the edge here so that you can see it. Well, I don't use wet palette paper lately. I'm using just parchment baking paper, Kroniko. So some wet palette papers, maybe it matters. I don't think the Mastersons matters though. I use both sides. So we're kind of getting some stuff here figured out. It's okay to have little touches of highlight elsewhere. A little bit more light. We're getting there. Yeah, I'm not sure. Some types of wet palette paper the facing may matter, for all I know. But I'm not familiar with a lot of them, Kroniko, because I don't use it very much. So I'm not the person to ask. If David wasn't, David is working right now, or I'd ask him since he uses wet palette. He's used various wet palettes in the course of his painting career. He would be a better one to ask. But my resource is currently, my wet palette resource is currently stuck on Google calls. Stuck on work. Yeah, I think that's okay. Hey, it's almost not Anne-time, Socrates. Yeah, we're almost done. I'm just trying to like figure out if I want a highlight here. if I can get away with a highlight there. I think I can, because normally it'd go down the middle of the leg. I feel like I do want a little tiny bit of highlight there. Sometimes you compromise. Sometimes you're like, okay, well, normally my highlight would go down here, but I really want to bring out the details here, so I'm going to put a highlight there. And chances are you'll get away with it. Like, if it's not, like, glaringly against the rest of what you're doing, you should be able to get away with it. Especially if you paint it into some sort of weird secondary reflection thing. All right, I think that's pretty good, guys. I think we got it. I think I'll stop futzing with it, because I could futz for another half an hour. How are you all? And does that make sense? Does the leg look okay? Like, it's rough. It's real rough. But we managed to get, like, the front plate here mostly done. I need to adjust this red stuff, and kind of got that working. I think I need to tackle the stomach area a little bit more, because I feel like I really need my highlight to be in line with where it is down here. And a little bit there. But, yeah. All in all, I'm pretty happy with how it looks. Let's zoom out. Alright, so yeah, when we zoom out, it looks like it's, in line. In line with our highlights. Like, I might shift it a tiny bit. But I think it's looking about right. Yeah? Here, let's put his sword on. Boop. There we go. He's so big he doesn't even fit on his, like, everything doesn't fit on. rotate your monitors. Here he is. He's big. Yeah, I'm liking I like how the black metal looks. It's always one of my favorite parts of doing something like this. At least it makes sense. Doing something big like this with a lot of different plates at all sorts of different angles, when you've got angled stuff and you've got flat stuff and you've got rounded stuff and you've got all of the above, it's a real challenge to do non-metallic metal on something like this. Like, you really have to consider each plate individually and then look at it at the end to see if your highlights are all, like, in line with and making sense. So you kind of have to take it step by step. Yeah, he's got a fancy new booty. Yep. He's ready to rar. Ready to rar. We need to, like, figure out how we're going to do these dragon scale thingies here, too. And how I'll have to figure out what color I need. That's partially gold, I know, but other than that. So yeah, maybe we'll work on Gemstone Dragon tomorrow, or maybe I'll finally prep something new. I had a couple of models that I wanted to do. Hey, Delusion. Delusional Sun. Morning, we just finished working on this leg and blocking it in, Delusional Sun. We're about to have Justin find us a raid.
You about ready, Miss Ann?
Yeah, I think so. Who do we have to raid today, Justin?
Let's see. We have Mocha.
Okay, yeah, let's do Mocha, guys. Oh, leg days are terrible. All right, everybody. I hope you had a better Monday than me. I will see you all tomorrow morning. Everybody take care. And yeah, have a great one. And say hi to Mocha for us, okay? We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye. Yeah, I hope my back feels better too. Thanks, Val. Bye-bye.